anarchist agenda from a country long seen as a fertile breeding ground for terrorists. 4. With Trump withholding Columbia's $400 million annual grant, the university quickly got the message and ceased platforming pro-Hamas activists on its campuses. It also de-enrolled Srinivasan from its PhD program, Hindudvesha Academia. Srinivasan's actions align with the stereotype of an Antifa or urban Naxal figure determined to dismantle societal foundations. Her research paper, titled Gold and Cyanide, Family, Caste, and the Post-Extractive Landscape at Kohler Gold Fields, is a textbook example of Mickey Mouse academics, university work that lacks depth or real-world relevance. 5. The paper, funded by the Lakshmi Mittal South Asia Institute at Harvard, explores the socio-economic aftermath of mining in India. If banality has an address, it's found in these pages. The paper is laughable in its contrived premise and lack of purpose, serving only as a vehicle for self-promotion or pushing an anti-Hindu narrative. Her central argument is that the gold mine's high-caste owners exploited lower-caste laborers. The issue here is that Srinivasan is being economical with the truth. The Kohler gold fields were owned by the British before India's independence, and it was the colonialists who enforced segregation through 3 distinct zones: palatial bungalows for whites, second-tier housing for Brahmins, and peripheral slums for the lower castes. Once again, it was the British, not Indians, who exploited poor laborers by dumping cyanide waste near their homes. By reframing colonial abuse as caste oppression, she's building activist credibility while angling for a faculty position. There are 2 ways to look at this. First, when scholarships are awarded for vacuous, agenda-driven research like Srinivasan's, it only deepens the suspicion that American universities serve as grooming grounds for international students and faculty to be shaped into deep state assets, essentially spies in academic robes. Had Trump lost the 2024 election, there's every chance Srinivasan could have ended up as one more cog in the CIA's global machine. 6, 7, 8. Second, never attribute to malice what can just as easily be chalked up to incompetence. Perhaps the Indian director and staff at the Lakshmi Mittal and Family South Asia Institute don't care about the substance or quality of the research they sponsor. As long as a candidate's worldview aligns with Harvard's Hinduphobic leanings, even drivel gets a stamp of approval. But here's the real puzzle. Why would an institute funded by a $25 million donation from steel tycoon Lakshmi in Mittal 9 support someone like Srinivasan, a self-styled anarchist openly hostile to India? It's not as if Mittal owes nothing to India. On the contrary, he may not have become the world's largest steelmaker without Indian support. In 2006, when Mittal launched a $22 billion bid to acquire Arcelor, then Europe's biggest steel company, he was met with fierce resistance, much of it fueled by racism from French politicians and corporate elites. It was only after the Indian government applied diplomatic pressure that France backed down and allowed the deal to go through. 10. This raises an uncomfortable question. Does the Mittal family feel any real allegiance to India? Are they just driven by a mercenary motive? Is profit their only calling? To find the answers, we must explore the entire corporate donation business to foreign universities by India's leading business houses, Indian tycoons, and foreign nexus. Over the past 2 decades, in step with their rapidly growing fortunes, Indian billionaires have made substantial donations to prestigious foreign universities, with notable contributions from Nandan Nilekani, Ratan Tata, Anand Mahindra, Lakshmi Mittal, and Ajay Peramal, among others. 11. Among the first to open their purse strings to foreign campuses was Infosys co-founder Nilekani, whose gift of $5 million enabled Yale to catalyze the Yale India Initiative. 12. So, how has that worked out? Well, in 2021, Yale faculty members took part in the notorious dismantling Global Hindutva Conference, during which they produced the Goebbelsian Hindutva Harassment Field Manual, which claims to offer resources for how to defend those attacked by Hindus and how to educate others on campus and the workplace. The document warned Muslim, feminist, LGBTQ+, and other students that they were at risk from Hindu students who may espouse elite Hindu-centric ideas. 13. Again, an economics professor at Yale named Ahmed Mushfiq Mubarak sparked controversy with his social media post, wherein he blamed the Prime Minister's visit to Bangladesh to justify the violence committed by the Islamist outfit Hafizat-e-Islam against Hindus. 14. Yale did nothing to discipline its jihadi professor, indicating that Hinduphobia is normalized at the university. The funding floodgates began to open in September 2010 when Anand Mahindra, the managing director of Mahindra & Mahindra, donated $10 million to Harvard University's Humanities Center, which was renamed the Mahindra Humanities Center at Harvard. 15. Here's an interesting backstory. When Rajiv Malhotra, the famous author and founder of Infinity Foundation, learned about Mahindra's intention to donate a large sum of money to Harvard, he met up with the tycoon and cautioned him about Harvard's anti-Hindu agenda. Mahindra appeared sympathetic to Malhotra's appeal and assured the author that he would only donate $20,000 for Indian students to visit as scholars. However, the mega donation, the largest in Harvard's history for studying humanities, went through. 16. Tata hits a century. Barely a month after Mahindra's $10 million grant, the Tata family announced they would donate $50 million to Harvard. 17. While undoubtedly a great achievement for the Tatas, this donation sparked considerable debate in India. Critics questioned whether such large sums of money were being diverted from addressing pressing issues within India, such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure. They pointed out that by donating to one of the wealthiest universities in the world, the Tatas were essentially contributing to a system that had little interest in addressing the issues facing Indians. The donation led to the creation of Tata Hall at Harvard, and while this may have brought prestige to the family, it has done little to help India in the long term. An Indian government subcommittee investigating this matter stated that the construction of Tata Hall did not amount either to charity or international welfare, in which India was interested, but instead may have been for the promotion of the personal interest of some of the trustees of various Tata trusts. 18. An equally devious aspect was the role played by Harvard Business School Dean Nitin Nohria in the questionable donation. In September 2013, 3 months before the completion of Tata Hall, Nohria was appointed a non-executive director to the board of Tata Sons, the holding company of Ratan Tata's companies. Alan Beard, a former adjunct professor at Georgetown University, questioned, how does one of America's most prestigious institutions catering to the elite manage to have its silver spoon taken from the most destitute? And how can such a revered institution of business management be so blind to the ironies of accepting questionable funds that go against every tenet of good governance? Harvard had no qualms about pocketing the cash, and Tata wasn't interested in explaining. Feeding the liberal snakes. Some argue that when India was poor, American organizations like USAID funded chairs at places like the Indian Institute of Technology at Kanpur. So what's wrong if Indian billionaires like Mahindra and Tata pay back their alma mater? But here's the difference. Indian universities that received American grants did not have an anti-American agenda. They did not try to divide Americans based on ethnicity. On the other hand, the structure of Indian donations, which focuses on short-term, high-profile initiatives rather than deep engagement with India's academic community, lacks the accountability needed to ensure that India's narrative is accurately and fairly represented. Despite being portrayed as centers for academic excellence, these initiatives often reflect a skewed, sometimes hostile, portrayal of India. Many of the projects funded by these donations engage in research criticizing India's history, political system, and socio-cultural fabric. For instance, scholars at these centers have produced works that critique India's constitution, its governance, and its role on the global stage. Often, these criticisms are masked under the veneer of social justice, but they can potentially distort India's global understanding. Brown Sahib mentality. Malhotra explains that Indian corporate tycoons often skip due diligence before handing out donations because the temptation to gain fame in Ivy League circles and rub shoulders with the American elite is too irresistible for them.